Coach, if you want to open it up with a quick statement, and we'll take some quick questions.
Well, we're obviously honored to be a part of the NCAA tournament. At the University of Arizona, because it was such a fixture of our program in college basketball for so long, you almost sometimes can take for granted being in it. I'm grateful. I know our team is grateful that we're in it. The only thing you need a reminder of is to look at Kentucky, the machine that they were a year ago, the overall #1 seed and the national champ, and a year later to not be a part of the tournament. It shows the parity and how this game that we're in has changed, and it's why March Madness is so special, and that's what we're excited about. The fact that we're going to Salt Lake City, an area that we're familiar with in the West, in the wheelhouse of our great fans, it only enhances this next game for us. I've coached against Belmont. They have one of the great coaches in college basketball. It's been at it a long time. They're a terrific shooting team. They're not a good team. They're a great program, and we have the ultimate respect for them. You can play the game, good matchup, bad matchup, but when you play in the NCAA tournament, it's about advancing, and any game you play is going to be difficult. I don't know if one of us looks at the opponent and says, boy, that's a great matchup. This is going to be easy. So we know it's going to be a challenge. We're not looking even beyond that game. We are excited to be in Salt Lake City, and like I mentioned, I'm really excited for our team to have the opportunity to play on Thursday in this great tournament.
Much is made about the seeding, but to you, is location more important than the overall seed?
Well, I think one thing the seed reflects is the quality of the season you had. And, a 6 seed, you times that by 4, you're viewed as one of the top 24, 25 teams in the country. And if you consider overall how we performed, that's probably pretty accurate. And whether we could have been one higher, one lower, when you're in and around the seed we're at, I don't think it matters. I think that first-round game is going to be difficult. But, yes, we're excited about playing close to home in a city that's a part of our conference footprint. And I think that from our guys' perspective, everything from traveling there to, I believe, staying in a hotel that we've stayed at before, I like to think in some way that's an advantage for us.
Did you feel like you'd be out of Salt Lake, San Jose, and out of the West the way things were going, or with UCLA winning?
No, I didn't follow it that closely. If they would have sent us to another location, we would gratefully have gone there, and I would be saying the same thing, except we're not as close as we once maybe were. But the fact that we're in Salt Lake City, like I said, I think we're thrilled to be a part of that community, and the respect that we have for Belmont, I've already stated, but in particular, I think being able to play in front of as many of our great fans as possible, that to me is something that we're fortunate to have on our side.
Do you feel good about your team in these last 3 games, and about as good as you felt about them all season?
We're playing at a high level right now, and you can only judge yourself by your own season. And I don't know if there's another time this season that we've played better. And I say that because we've played, if you think about our last 4 games, played against quality opponents, 2, really 3 away from McHale, 1 Arizona State at home. And I think we have some individual players playing at their best. And I think our team has a good mindset right now. Now, the one thing about the NCAA tournament, it's not a 7-game series. So, sometimes a slow start, that alone can do you in. But I believe we're approaching Thursday's game in a good frame of mind.
Do you believe in momentum as a coach?
Mm-hmm.
And for good or bad, what's your thoughts on that?
I think confidence is really what you're talking about. Individual confidence, a collective confidence that our team believes that we can win, and individually that you have a lot of players playing their best. And I think we have both of those things on our side.
You're averaging 77 points. Have they always been that when you faced them before? Were they tempo, or they always were creating a lot of things?
Yes, when I faced them before, they really value shooting, and they generally can shoot the ball from more than their perimeter players. Their front court players can shoot it. They put you in those compromising positions, and it's really what I said since October. It's so important to be able to defend the three-point shot, and it's something that there are times this year we've started to improve, and I think it's been well documented. At times it's done us in. The monster that we're dealing with here in the opening round of the NCAA tournament is that very thing. And that doesn't mean we can't do it, or that doesn't mean we will do it, but playing Belmont, I think every coach looks at their ability to shoot, and it's scary. And we have to do a good job in that area, as does every team that plays them.
How long ago was it when you last coached against Belmont?
I'm going to say maybe my fourth or fifth year at Xavier, one of those years. We played them at home. They were good that year.
I think they took Duke, when the Arizona played West Virginia in that region, they took Duke to the final. They're
Mhm.
the fast team, athletic.
Yeah, and I think they're pressing some. If you look at one of the statistics here, and we're just beginning to look at them, is they really turn you over. They're one of the teams in this country that really is able to turn you over by pressing and using quickness. And then if you think about the other component, their ability to shoot the ball from three at 5 spots or 4 spots at all times, their turnovers, your turnovers can lead to threes and easy baskets. And that's something that UCLA is really good at. And, hopefully us learning the value of taking care of the ball can help us here.
Thoughts on the Pac-12 seeding in general? Kind of seem to be all over the place.
From this point on, we all learn lessons as a coach. I'm never been more motivated to coach Arizona and our players and deal with the great fans we have. And I'm only worried about us.
Charlie, when Jordan is playing like he's played in this last few games, what does that do?
Does a lot. You think about conference tournaments and you think about the NCAA postseason tournaments. Generally, there's guys on a team that come in off the bench or those players that maybe aren't the marquee matchup at the beginning of the game, and they just play really well. Could be shooting the ball. A couple years ago against Texas, Jordan went 4 for 4 from 3 as a freshman. And you think about how close that game was, it wasn't Derek Williams or the starting 5 that made the biggest difference. It was players like Jordan coming in off the bench, doing their job, playing with confidence. And he's one of many players right now that I think is playing his best basketball of the season.
Does anything change with you personally entering NCAA tournament play? You played in as a player, obviously have a track record as a coach. Do you ratchet up the intensity at all personally?
That's impossible probably on my end. More of the same. The one thing we try to do, and believe me, it's not as if I'm sitting here with 2 national championships on my side, but you have to try to keep things as normal as possible. I don't think you want your players or your team approaching this game as if every shot is life or death. Every moment, every dribble leading up to the game is more intense than it's ever been. If anything, you want them to be able to settle into the norm. And that's one of the reasons that we try to keep the intensity up throughout, because if it's always up, then you don't need to ratchet it up to be ready. It's almost as if that's the norm. And what I hope these next couple days, and that we have a team that's confident, that's relaxed, excited, but understands how hard you have to play and how well you have to play to beat a team like Belmont.
I know you don't look ahead past Belmont, of course, but just in general, the fact that you have a chance if things go well to get back to LA, kind of like 2 years ago, you got to Anaheim and had a big, kind of almost an advantage there. Is that exciting?
No, I mean it is from the perspective of any time that we can have our fans involved. They're the best fans in the world. We saw it in Vegas this weekend. It's just it's incredible. And but it would be foolish for us to think in those terms, because it's like we enter the conference tournament. I wasn't sure who we would play in the second game, because you know how hard it is to beat a Colorado team. And then once that's over with, then you move to the next one. This tournament, the next one never comes unless you play an excellent game. So we're really completely consumed with Belmont. Their coach is a great coach, great guy. They're not a good team. They're a great program, and I think that's a big difference. What I mean by that is they've been here before. They compete for championships. When you're recruited to Belmont, you're competing to be a part of the NCAA tournament. This isn't like they're in the NCAA tournament and they've made it. They're trying to advance in the NCAA tournament, and they have players that have won a ton of games. They believe in their system. They believe in their coach, and that's what's great about the tournament. Regardless these days of who you play, you always get that game one.
That's it, Sean. This year's been unlike any other year where parodies come and play and anybody can beat anybody and there's no clear-cut, champ or potential champ. Your thoughts on that?
I would say that that's true this year. There are a lot of teams that maybe are closer together, but maybe not as big of a difference as you would think over the last couple. Maybe this year doesn't have that one team like Kentucky was a year ago. But I do think that if you look closely, it's been difficult the last maybe 5-7 years, maybe even more, in these first-round games, second round. I mean, when you look at the parity of who gets in and who doesn't, Thad Matta, Billy Donovan, Florida, Ohio State, two of the great programs in the country, and it wasn't too long ago that they too went from a Final Four to not even making the tournament. Carolina a few years ago, us. So the fact we're in it is not to take for granted, and what I hope is this is a start of many consecutive NCAA tournaments. And like we said, that you don't have a good team, but you have a really good program, and you build that through the opportunity to play in this tournament.
Coach, you said that you've never been more motivated going into this tournament. Does that have anything to do with the way the Pac-12 tournament ended?
Yes. It's just I think in all that we do, whether you're father, a brother, a coach, you're not going to be the same 5 years from now as you were 5 years ago. And, you get into circumstances or situations, you learn a lot. And, this week was a learning experience. And I think what it tells me as the coach of Arizona is that we have each other, that our players and their development and their opportunity is by far the thing that matters the most, especially to me and to our staff, to protect that, to develop that, and to never lose sight that it's about one thing, the University of Arizona. And all eggs are in that basket, and it's not about doing anything other than building our program and coaching and making sure that we're the most ready, game in, game out, year in, year out. And that's what I mean by that.
Sometimes, one follow-up. Sometimes a league or a conference will apologize to a coach a few days afterwards when a bad call is made. Have you been offered any apologies?
No.
Do you sense, Sean, that your spirited comments have lit an extra fire under the team?
I don't know. I know this. Our players, they don't have to go very far to figure out that I care a lot about them. And, I see guys like Solomon and Mark, Kevin, who I know are one loss away from their career ending. It's the greatest motivating factor for any team or coach. The further that we can take them, that they can take ourselves, that's what this is about. March isn't about a coach or a game. It's about these kids. It's about players. It's about the guys that you deep down know are never going to ever put a uniform on for the University of Arizona again. And our responsibility is to protect those guys and develop them and hope their career stays as long as it can possibly go. And there's a lot of emotion attached to that. And I think we all know that in our locker room.
You were pretty apologetic about that, the technical to them at the press conference. I mean, did you guys talk about it again, or did you bring it up to the team at all over the weekend?
We've moved on. We're so excited to be a part of the tournament that, I think that's in our rearview mirror.
Were you surprised just the way it kind of got a lot of attention? I mean, your whole comment.
No, I've kind of blanked out, moved on.
Bring up the confidence earlier. Just talk about the way the three freshmen have played, especially the way they played against UCLA. I think they only missed 4 shots combined.
No question, man. You can really sense that our freshman big guys are really getting better and playing with a lot of confidence. Caleb against UCLA in the last 2 games had 22 rebounds. I mean, it's difficult to grab 22 rebounds against a team as talented as them, especially when you consider he played in and around 50 minutes, not 80. 22 rebounds in 50 minutes. He was terrific against UCLA, and, I continue to want to get him the ball a little bit more. But in terms of how he's moving and how far he's come, Brandon Ashley was the best game that he's played at Arizona under some really big circumstances. And we've started to sense that Grant was coming along as well. But those guys, I think I've been pretty consistent in explaining who they are. They work hard every day, and it's just a matter of time before they all hit their stride.
Was that what it is, a matter of time, just kind of going
Yep, just practices and development and learning. For college big guys, the game is so much different just because every time they play, they're playing against size, whereas in high school, before you get here, they're always the biggest player. So it takes some time to adjust, but those guys have done a great job for us, and sky's the limit for all 3 of them.
Do you have any communication with Mike Levinsky at all before, during, after any of this?
No.
Because you have a pretty
great I just congratulated him a couple months back when he became the athletic director at Georgia Tech.
I just wondered maybe were you be joking about it,
No.
anything like that.
And maybe lastly on the freshman, did you expect them to hit a wall? And most freshmen do at some point.
Mhm.
You've been together for a long time, August and all that stuff. Did you expect that just as a coach?
No, because none of them have played the minutes that would create the wall. I mean that in a positive. Like, if you consider their minutes played, I think all of them have enough freshness. Sometimes if a guy's playing 35, 36 minutes and you're just depending on his performance game in, game out, you can wear him out as much mentally as physically. But the role that those guys have on this year's team and the way they've played and practiced, I think has them in this for the long haul, however long we go from here.
And mentally, you brought up mentally too.
They're good and they're solid people, smart guys who love the game. And sometimes the guys who hit the wall, you say it without saying it, they just don't love basketball. They're tired of it. In their case, they love the game, so they never really tire of practice or preparation.
Anything else for Coach Miller?
Thank you.